All right, today I'm here with Keneshia Raymond, and she is one of our leaders here in Tucson at Startup Tucson. She also has a small business, and today we're going to be talking about the future of business and economics in the Black community. So, Keneshia, welcome. I'm excited that you're here with me today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Absolutely. Well, I know you've been doing some big things in the Black community and just in the startup community in general. And so maybe we could just kind of start off, in this moment with what you're seeing as far as trends just in Black business and Black economics. Now, especially just coming off, the Black town hall that you recently had. What are you seeing right now?
I think this year has been different. Last year, it was a point of how do we stay alive? How do we kind of keep this going? And coming off of the Black Business Town Hall, I felt like we found our way. There's a lot of resilience in the Black community, especially for Black business owners. For Black people in general, we're very resilient. We know the hustle, we know how to come back. And now it's more of how to scale,
Mm,
less of how to come back because we're here. We're not going anywhere. But how do we keep the same momentum going throughout this time? So we had this big group of people who were, oh, I'm going to support Black businesses and I want to buy Black, Black, Black. But now, how do we keep this going when everyone else forgets about you, right? Because unless something happens and you're in people's face, they're like, oh, yeah, that business is there. Now it's how do we keep the same momentum going from I want to buy Black to oh, I'm going to buy Black. Where is that Black business and how can I connect with them? So over this last month, especially during February, because again, it's Black History Month, but it's Black History all year. People did this big storm of I'm gonna buy Black. Now here we are in March, and people are kind of falling off of that. So how do
mm.
we keep our Black businesses at the forefront? And our Black businesses are telling their own story now. Now they're telling a story of why they're here, why they're going to be resilient, how they can help the community. The dollar amounts that they're putting back into the economy is helping economic development hugely. So we have to continue to help them build that, but they're doing that for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, that's really exciting. You talked about scaling here for a moment. Um, in terms of this opportunity to scale and to grow, what trends are you seeing that are making that possible right now for some of our businesses?
I think for some of our businesses, it's not only having a brick and mortar, or we have a lot of home based businesses, right?
Hmm.
So they're taking that home based business and taking them out to pop ups. And they're showing up in the community, which is helping them grow that business. When before they may have just had a home based business and took a couple orders, now they are taking that whole thing that they did at home and putting it out in the community in front of people's face. Especially with at the Urban League, we had a harvest market, ton of Black vendors. Boss Women Unite does a pop up market, a ton of Black vendors that are actually taking that business, their business, and scaling and trying to see where else they can fit in the market. So you may have had some people that were maybe selling soap in the beginning, and now they're selling soap and body care and lotions and all the things. So you see them scaling. Then you have people who are now doing what is it called? Soul Food Wednesdays at Hotel Congress. And you see them coming from their home based business and doing the one time thing at Hotel Congress, but now they're opening up for orders. So it went from that one every once in a while I got an order to now we're actually expanding and getting more orders. They're also building out websites, which before maybe a lot of them didn't have websites. They're using social media to the best they can, especially in this very big small town, but they're using every resource they can to scale up that business and making a plan to actually scale up that business. They're not staying stagnant in oh they will come, because build it and they would come, it's not a thing. It's not realistic. But they're actually reaching out to get the markets that they need to, and then other people are helping them market their business. You have Black's Friday, you have all of the chambers. So people are helping to market, but they're not relying on people to do the job for them. They're going above and beyond to make sure that they're doing the job.
Yeah, one of the things that's really standing out to me as I'm hearing you speak is you're talking about how folks are in the Black community. partnering up and collaborating with other organizations as kind of a springboard to launch into that scalability and into a bigger space. And it sounds like a lot of folks are using technology to do this. Um, as we kind of move into a conversation about the future, what are some of the things that you're seeing that our black businesses are going to definitely need to take advantage of and explore to continue to scale and to grow and to support each other and be successful?
You know, the one thing that I have seen over the last year, and especially the last 8 months, is once we come together as a community, we cannot be stopped, right? So once we come together and support each other, we cannot be stopped. So this collaboration that's happening now and everybody kind of feeding off of each other and doing different pop-ups and things like that is something that we need to continue to keep going. We have to work together to make sure that we are seen, we are heard, and our businesses are growing because there's enough business out there for everyone. But also making sure that your website presence is there, making sure that your social media presence is there, making sure that you are easy to find, easy to buy, easy to communicate with. It's so important, especially in these times, because we don't have that face to face. We can't just run out to your shop, you're probably closed, or limited seating, or whatever that is, to make sure we still have ways to communicate. If we can keep those lines of communication open, as well as the collaboration, that's what's going to help us grow. That's it's you know Most black businesses throughout the community are doing well and have been doing well. That's not the problem. It's that people don't see them. And now we are seen, we are heard. So we have to continue to speak up and speak out. So then, in the transition of things, whatever this new normal is, we don't just fall back. We continue to push and grow throughout this and making sure that as things change, we change with that.
Mhm.
So if your website is not up to date, people can't buy off your website, well, let's figure out how we can make it where they can buy or order off your website. Let's make it where they can click off your social and get to wherever they need to get to you. People don't like to work hard. So we have to do that for them on the back end. And if we continue to do that, it'll be easier for us in the long run.
Yeah. What comes to my mind as you talk about this trend for collaboration and working together within the community like that. When we before we got on the call here, I was talking about a trend that I was seeing, and that is the trend. Like the trend is, whether where we are today or we're 100 years in the future, the trend for us is working together and collaborating and getting to know each other and so forth. And then another thing that really kind of stood out with what you were saying is around you talked about technology, but and keeping up. So it sounds like a big trend or something that's going to be important business wise for us in the future is to have, that training and education and so forth that's really solid in our community and is culturally competent, culturally responsive for us.
Yes. And then thinking back, like if you really think about it, our ancestors didn't do anything by themselves, right? So we all work together to get to the next space. We all work together to be better. We all work together to get away, whatever that was. So now that we're in this time where we should have been working together before, but we may have not known each other, now we do know each other. Now we have the resources to know each other, to continue to collaborate, to help each other out. So in doing that, the community, is small as it is, why can't we have one big thing or one big space where we can all come together, where people can come to us? And then in that space, also offering the education
Mm.
that we need to help grow our businesses, but also the technology that helps us grow our business. It's not like we don't have a ton of black entrepreneurs building websites, doing photos in the tech space, but now we need to put them in a space where people can find them. So then we can continue to grow, continue to economically stimulate our businesses in the black community with the black dollar. So that dollar stays in the black community longer than 1 minute, like the white dollar does. The white dollar stays in the community for hundreds of days. The black dollar stays in the community for 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And what's exciting about what you're saying is is in this particular moment, what I feel like you're referencing is kind of a renaissance that's taking place, and the technology is supporting it. This desire for collaboration and hunger is, for that is supporting it. As we look into the future, given that communication is such an important thing, what are some things that you think we need to keep at the forefront of our minds in terms of being able to communicate and work successfully with each other?
I think one, to realize we are not alone.
Mm,
You're not the only business owner out there in the world. There's so many other business owners, and knowing that, knowing you always have someone to talk to. Whether it's the person next to you, the person 6 to 10 miles away, the person states away, we are not alone. And so we don't have to go at it alone.
mm,
But we have to make sure that maybe once a month we're getting together, or once a quarter we're getting together and say, hey, how's business going? How can I help? What can we collaborate on to do something together, especially in the hot months? We know it's going to go dormant and quiet.
mhm.
But what can we do together to make sure that we can make it through June, July, and August? Um, and I would say, even like years and years and years from now, it's going to be the collaboration that keeps us going. It's going to be our children that keeps the businesses going. But it's that community. It's that community feel. I grew up in LA. I grew up on a street and where everyone knew each other. I went to elementary school where everyone knew each other. We still all talk to this day. So just think, if we all have businesses and we communicate it, and then our kids were friends, and then they communicate it, and the businesses continue to grow as we go down the line, how big could that be? We need to do that in this big, small town to make sure that our businesses continue to stay and grow, or it gets to a point where we've done our due diligence, we've done everything we need to do, and now we're selling our business to another Black business owner.
Mm.
We're helping to launch another Black business. But the only way we can do that is if we do it together.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And it's funny because you talk about scaling and growing and selling businesses. Are you noticing any trends right now? Clearly, I'm absolutely certain that these are going to be trends in the future. They definitely need to be. But are you noticing any trends right now where Black folks are getting into the cannabis business or the technology business or the AI business, these kinds of things, to kind of keep in line with some of the global trends? I mean, we have plenty of barbershops and beauty shops and restaurants, and those are exciting, and we need them in our community. But these types of businesses that can scale and create jobs at mass, what are you predicting, and what are you seeing around that going forward?
The one that I've seen that really stuck out for me, and it's MJ Nail Tech Academy.
Hmm.
And she is a nail tech school, the only Black nail tech school in Tucson. And she is teaching BIPOC and all colors how to do nails. So you go through her program, you learn how to do manis, pedis, acrylics, and all of that. And then you get your license, you take your state board, you get your license, and they can either start their business, work for her, or go get a job. So the tech part of schooling is very important. Not everyone wants to go to college. So that tech part of, creating jobs is very important. And she's the only one here, besides some bigger schools, that are actually giving people a runway and teaching them how to start a business or get a job in that space. Some of the kids that are graduating, they're not kids, they're adults, but are graduating this time, are like making sheds in their backyard for it to be their nail academy, for it to be their shop. And so she's giving them opportunities that they probably would not have had.
Hmm.
The other thing I would, locally, there are some people that are getting into tech to scale. I look at our small businesses because at the end of the day, tech is going to be around forever, right? But there's so many runways to get into that, to get funding. But our mom and pop businesses really create economy around what they're doing, and they put so many dollars back into the community. Now, the cannabis business everywhere else is booming. California, there are a ton of black entrepreneurs in the cannabis business. Here, since it just kind of opened up for us, there are so many red flags and tags, and so hard to get into something that could really change the way money is handled here in Arizona and could really build on that. Now, the economy is going to change, there are going to be new initiatives, and that may open up. But I don't see that as a space that anyone's going to get into unless you're already established for the next 5 to 6 years.
Mm.
So it's, I mean, when you have to have $1 million bond, it's not easy. It's not an easy space to get into, but it is a great space to get into because the money that comes from that is going to really stimulate the economy. So if you have the backing for that, or you can get some backing, that would be great. But it should stimulate the economy in the next 5 to 10 years, and we'll see like the turnover from there.
Yeah.
In the tech space, we have people that are moving into like med tech, which is amazing, and we'll see the transition into that. But the scaling of that would be an exit scale. So it's going to put money in the community for a small time. They're going to exit out, maybe do their own thing, and it's going to continue to put money back in. But I think it's going to be the mom and pop solopreneurs that really change the way we scale a business. It's going to be our restaurants. It's going to be our nail techs. It's going to be our event planners. It's going to be our graphic designers. Those are the people that are going to really take what they have and grow it to a level that we never thought they could.
Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like what I hear you saying is that you see some people working in these spaces right now that are coming up with innovative ways to scale their business model beyond just the local, way of doing business.
Yeah, and then you have opportunities like Hustle Phoenix. They are an amazing organization that will help you start your business. They will even give you beginning funding, right? And so that is for BIPOC community. That is for people who have been incarcerated or anything like that. And they're really showing an example of how to kind of get off the ground. But most people that come through that, again, are brick and mortars, mom and pop type shops. I don't know why we don't see a lot of black entrepreneurs here in the city that do tech, but when they slowly kind of start to get into it is when we're going to see growth in that space. It's going to be that one person that breaks through, because that's what we need, right? That one person that breaks through that tech space to help other people see that it's possible. You'll see that kind of as things turn around. But right now, there's not a lot of African American people or black people doing anything in the tech space right now. Now, I don't know what the next year or 2 years looks like, but right now, looking at it, it would be great to see more black entrepreneurs in the tech space because there is space for it. There is loans for it. There are grants for it. Like there's opportunity. We're just not focusing in that space.
Yeah. It's interesting because um, what a possibility that I'm basically what I'm hearing you say, you're not saying it directly, but what I'm seeing for the future is an initiative, a community that supports these individuals who are moving into that tech space and some of these other spaces. You're talking about the cannabis and people having the bond and so forth, and maybe there's some type of infrastructure where people could, put money into a pot, if you will, and do that collaboratively together, given the fact that, this move to collaboration is kind of that's our magic power kind of, in terms of what I'm consistently hearing.
Yeah, and I think that if we did say about 5 or 6 people put money into a pot and they said, okay, this is what we have, this is where we're going, especially get into the cannabis space, there's money to be made all day, every day, no matter where you go. In the cannabis space, there's money to be made. You can be medical, you can be recreational, it doesn't matter, there's money to be made. There is just this wall that always gets put up, right? So I'm going to start this new business. Okay, do you have, even applying for like a loan? Okay, do you have X, Y, and Z? Okay, you missed a couple payments here. Okay, what's your ethnicity? Okay, X, Y, and Z. And then boom, you're blocked, right? That's what that bond is for black business owners. That $1 million bond is what will block us. Even I looked into it when I went to California. and cannabis was legal, I was like, oop, I know what my next venture is going to be. This is where the money is. And then I had to really think about it. I'm like, oh, $1 million bond plus all the security that you have to run all day, plus X, Y, and Z. Even I had to stop and say, okay, that's a lot of money that I'm putting on the table or putting my house up for this space when it may be easier for the next person, right? So I'm not willing to lose that money on this business, but maybe I could have created an opportunity with other people that wanted to get into the space to open up the space. And I think that going forward, like even thinking about the ventures that I'm working in, bringing other people to the table to open it up may give more options. Even I'm working with CIC on the BIPOC Loan Fund. And that's like, it's a group of us coming to the table to create this loan fund to give people opportunity where more than likely one of us wouldn't be able to pull this off. But the community came together to make sure that this happened.
Yeah, yeah. So community collaboration definitely, and people need to see that. We need to see people like us doing big things. Um, and
That
inside
part.
that, what was that?
That part. Seeing people like you doing big things. I don't think I knew how important that was until I was in my 30s.
Mm,
Right? Mom, I wanted to be a nun. Mom, I want to be a nun. Okay. Mom, I want to be this. Okay, you can do anything, right? And in your mind, as a child, you're like, yeah, I can do anything I want to do because my mama said it. But then when you don't see people like you doing the things that you want to do, then you're like, can I do it? Am I worthy enough to do it? Do I have the opportunities that someone else has to do it? Why is so and so doing this so quickly and I'm having such a hard time doing it? If you don't see people doing it, then you second guess it.
yeah.
And
So
that's where we get stuck.
yeah, yeah. So in addition to this collaboration, this piece of collaboration that's going to be important, it's also going to be important for us to kind of elevate and celebrate each other in the community so people know who's doing what. And then along with that, what I'm seeing as equally important for the future is kind of these opportunities for education and training, and not just in necessarily the skill set per se. That's really important, but also in maybe some of the human skills to build that
Mhm.
trust, because I know that's a thing in our community, and being able to kind of talk through some challenging things so that we can work together and be successful.
Yes, yes. It's that collaboration, it's that coming to the table, it's the know, like, and trust, right? You have the I know you, I like you, I trust you. You also look like me. So
Mm,
I really kind of trust you, but still wait. I'm not sure if I trust you because you may steal my idea. That is where we all get stuck.
mm,
It's that, oh, I don't want to tell you, but I do want to tell you, but I don't want you to look at me differently. And maybe you are, but maybe you're not. But if we all sit at a table, we all come with our own stuff, right? It may be kind of like other people's. And if we were to sit at a table and have a discussion, have a conversation, we connect on so many different levels and we can help each other out because we've either gone through it or we're going through it right now. So let's talk it out. And building a business is all about talking it out. You don't know what you're doing. I don't care how much schooling you have. I don't care how many things you've been through. You don't know what you're doing because you have not done it. Or
mm,
you've done it and you felt that, or you've done it and you walked away because it was too hard, or you've done it and you're still kind of eh. But if you have a conversation with like minded people who are going through the same struggle, because we all have a struggle, you just got to pick which one you want to struggle with today and talk it out, then maybe you can get over that hurdle. Maybe you can learn something new. Maybe you can share and someone else learns from you. But if we always keep it to ourselves, we're never going to grow or help other people grow. And at the end of the day, this is a community and we have to help each other grow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Growth is definitely a big part of this. Okay, so I wanna pivot um, a little bit, and I want to talk about the year 2050, because there's some big trends
Oh,
around the year 2050 that is important for us to just kind of put on the table. So 2050, you're looking at increasing temperatures here in Tucson. You're looking at the brown, I call it the beiging of the population, right? Because you're seeing already by the year 2030, the Hispanic population is expected to be the majority population here in Tucson. We're seeing, of course, a lot of mixed marriages. I have a mixed marriage, right? And so you're seeing by 2050, you'll see those mixed kids um, start to really show up. You know, they'll be very predominant and very present. Um, and also by this time, you're looking at um, if this comes to pass, Elon Musk saying by this time he's got 1,000 spaceships going to Mars and a bunch of other places. You know, he's got 1 million people on these spaceships and they're colonizing places. And Tucson happens to be a science and engineering town that's heavy in the space. What are you seeing for us in this story as it relates to Black folks in Tucson?
So there's a couple things, right? Elon's gonna do his thing. We're in the space and tech space. Our babies are growing up. They're becoming young adults. They're going to college. As long as we stay on track, which has not changed in the hundreds of years, thousands of years that we have been on this earth, Black people are resilient. We have come out of slavery. We have come out of way too many things. So you don't have to worry about where we're going to be. You have to worry about who then we're going to bring to the table, right? We're going to own the table. That is not a problem. You have to see how that's going to change the community. Because one, I mean, we're a big small town. We're very much a Hispanic population. It's kind of a melting pot. We're about 6% Black people, but we all show up. So now our babies are here and they're in college and now they're working with Elon or they own companies that work with Elon or things like that. Now we have to say, what can we do now, right now in this time, to make sure that we're setting our children up for the future? Because we know 2050 we're going to be old as heck. Um, and our babies are now looking at us to say, well, what did you do for me? Or how did you change it? So right now we have to make sure we're setting our babies up so that as they go forward and hopefully they stay in Tucson and they go to college here, that they have a space, right? And so yes, it's going to be hotter. It's awful, but we're going to leave that where it is. But there is going to be more Black businesses in 2050 that actually have brick and mortars, that have vibing spaces, that have tons of employees, that are hiring more people in the community, that are also taking off to make spaces around the community. So it's not a one mom and pop shop. Now they've scaled, they have several different ones, and they are playing in the tech space. I think over the next 10 years, we'll see a lot more people of color playing in the tech space because before it was a very white space. And still, even now, no matter how you look at it, it's a very white space. We just have to kind of break through and not be afraid to fail or be afraid to hear no. And get in that space. It's not that we're very smart people. There's a ton of Black and brown kids coming out of the U of A. We just now have to help them get into a space where they're comfortable. And I think in 2050, our kids will be comfortable in that space. They will be making strides. We will see change in the future. My hope is there's a lot more equality because we don't want our kids to have to fight as hard as we did.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious about what you're seeing. We were talking a lot about tech, but what were you seeing in terms of like agriculture and people doing more with the land and kind of natural wellness and these kinds of things? I know Tucson tends to be a place for that type of wholeness conversation to take place. What are you seeing there in the future for us?
Even now, I see a lot of people moving into town, buying land so they can plant solar and have gardens and, things like that. I think even more right now, it is crazy market, but you'll see even more in the future people actually having land and growing their own crops and maybe selling food, but bringing more food to the community, right? For me, it's and seeing Tucson, it's about community. So at the end of the day, even if you live already all the way out in Sierra Vista, like they're still a part of that community and they're bringing stuff to the community. It's very yogi and wholeness and wellness. And you'll see even the younger generation, because I see it now, trying to fit into that space. I have someone working on starting a smoothie bar and someone working on starting a yoga studio. So you'll see that it'll just be on the outskirts of town and not in town.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. And it's so funny because I've talked to a few people in, arts and culture, and one of the conversations that I've had consistently has actually been about the emergence of African spiritual systems. And that's such a big trend right now, and what that looks like for the future. And so I would imagine
Mm-hmm.
that maybe some of those yoga studios today might be, you know, um, centers of African consciousness and so forth in the future, and could also serve as that support center or that hub for some of these education opportunities and collaboration type of opportunities and so forth.
Yeah, and I think that in that space, whatever that space looks like, because we're going to say it's happening, whatever that space looks like, it's going to be whole body, right? It's
Mm,
going to be mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. You're going to be able to feed your whole body. And on top of that, you're going to be able to learn from each other. And maybe that does come out with you starting a business, or you help someone else start a business, or you all create a business together. But I think that we're missing the whole body portion of it.
mm.
We're very much feeding some parts of our body, but not soul. And our mental health is very important, and your spiritual health is very important, and your wellness, especially, I mean, COVID hit. How do we stay well? It's that whole body wellness from head to toe, inside and out, that's going to keep us pushing in the right direction.
Yeah, that's really 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 powerful what you're saying, because essentially you just highlighted another trend here. We talked about the collaboration and community and working together, but a big part of that is making sure that as the world turns, so to speak, and as these changes happen, that we maintain our resilience by tapping into that spiritual side of us, because that's another one of our superpowers as Black folks, and has always been.
Yes. Yes, and we all come from different backgrounds, right?
Mhm.
We're all over the place. So whatever that spiritual part of you
Right.
is, you're able to come into this space and kind of tap into whatever that is. And remembering to put that forward in whatever you're doing, but also taking care of your mental health and your body and all of that, because it all works together. And I think we forget about that. When it's time to be spiritual, we're spiritual. When it's time to be healthy, we're healthy. When it's time to do X, Y, and Z, it's this, and not bringing it all together because it all works together.
Yeah. So this integral wholeness experience where it's all working together, and it sounds like what's going to be important is education and training around how to do that effectively and to have not so much balance but harmony,
Yes.
because yeah that
Yes.
it because this what the western model doesn't necessarily facilitate that, and so it's really going to be important for us to look back, maybe into the past or reach into the future, the emerging future, and pull out those ideas that are going to support this integral wholeness and well-being, and working together.
Yeah, I think we do have to take a breath, remember where we came from, remember how our family did it, our ancestors did it, and kind of bring that into where we're going in the future and where we are now.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, it's going to be very broken because life balance is one thing. Work life balance is crap. It doesn't happen. But how can we make sure that we are still whole,
Mm,
no matter how you look at it?
yeah, beautiful. And I would say that there's opportunities for business models and technology that supports this very thing that we're talking about, this integrative wholeness and well-being.
Yes. So a lot of tech companies now do this, right? They have their wellness part of it where you do yoga or you see a therapist or whatever it is. And some people love it, some people don't. But we do need to figure out if we're going to work as hard as what we're working, our kids are going to work even harder because that's the model we're setting. How do we set this whole model up for everyone that's inclusive to everyone that we open ourselves up to? Because you get a lot of pushback when you talk about therapy.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, how can we make sure that it may not be you want to sit and talk to someone, but you need to sit and talk to yourself? You need that whole spiritual therapy for yourself to make sure that you are whole. So, how can we make sure that we're taking that and putting it in the future so that it's normalized for our children?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's so, so beautiful. And I really appreciate the picture that you're painting. We've been kind of on a journey here, starting from where we are today in this kind of renaissance to looking at, the points of collaboration that are needed, the education that's needed, the opportunity to put money together and do things, and spaces and technology to help facilitate all these things. We talked a little bit about youth, like just real briefly. And so I feel like this is a really, really good place to kind of tie a bow around this conversation. Is there anything that you feel like needs to be said before we stop the recording?
I think the one thing that sticks out is that Black entrepreneurs start businesses 10 times faster than other entrepreneurs,
Mm,
but they never get themselves in the forefront to years and years later.
mm,
So we have to make sure that as Black entrepreneurs, we are putting ourselves in the forefront. We are telling our stories. We are talking about what we're doing and continuing to push because when you look at the statistics, we are starting businesses quicker and faster and we grow, but we grow at a very slow rate.
mm.
So making sure that you're continuing to talk about what you're doing and putting that out into the world because people want to know what you have going on, but they don't know what they don't know. So just make sure that you're celebrating yourself because no one else is going to celebrate what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
that's it.
Yeah, and we definitely need to continue to celebrate what we're doing as a community because every time I see, this black business having this success or that success, or like for example, there was a thing that came out today. A gentleman out of Georgia had been working on this legislation around funding and support for black farmers who had been discriminated against, over the last several years. And now he's got this $5 billion on the table, you know,
Yeah.
to cancel loans, like on land. And like it just, but this guy put in the work. He showed up for 30 years. He showed up.
Continue showing up. Continue showing up.
Yeah, it's so inspiring. Well, Kanisha, thank you so much for your time today. This has been very inspiring, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. It was a great time.
Yes. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here.